Good morning, guys. We're going from job to job today, so I thought, well, in between that, we'd nip to a job that I did about 7 or 8 weeks ago. It's a full driveway. There was a patio as well, but it's the driveway I'm more concerned about because, as you know, block paving can be a bit of a pain. In between every single brick is a potential growing bed for weeds, and the pressure washing process is about cleaning the floor. The bricks look dirty, old. You want to bring some new life back to them, so it's about cleaning the actual floor. The bonus is it cuts out the weeds as well, so it's not a weed removal service forever. Some of my customers contact me 2 months, 3 months later and say some of the weeds are back. Well, they will grow back. Weeds will grow wherever there's a gap or a crack, whether it's block paving or concrete or slabs. If there's a gap or a crack for them to grow through, they will do. So the block paving can be a bit of a pain. It looks amazing when it's clean. It looks amazing when it's first been laid, but yeah, you can get a lot of weeds in there. Now, cutting out the weeds brings us back to square one, where you get to manage the weeds one at a time rather than a million of them that are there currently. When I do the pressure washing, this happens to a lot of other pressure washing guys as well, it cuts the weeds out, and some of the weeds lie down in the gap through the pressure. And when you turn your back a couple of weeks later, the sun comes out, they pop back up. So I just go back to my jobs about a month or so later, just to go and pull them last few stubborn weeds out. I try and pull them out at the root. I do use a burner as a last resort, so I'll show you that in a moment. You can burn them off, or you can put a little bit of salt. Now, you don't want salt on your drive or on your floor. It's harmful towards, you know, wildlife, cats, things like that. It can be if you leave it where it is. And also, you don't want baked in salt on your drive, but you know when you get them really stubborn weeds that are like a big palm spread open, if you put a tiny bit of salt into the centre of that, it will kill it to the root rather than all over the leaves. I'll show you what I mean. Come with me to the driveway. Let's have a look at what it looks like weeks later. There might be a bit of an oil stain from a car or things like that, but the bricks are still going to look brand new. They're going to look great. I'm going to remove any weeds that happen to have popped back up. And now it's down to the customer. You guys, you are the weed killer. Go and buy some weed killer from the DIY or something like that, and just treat your driveways, treat your patios, and the weeds won't come back. They will stay away. I can't carry weed killer. I have to be licensed for it, so I don't carry weed killer. Some of the cleaning agents I use when I'm cleaning the floor do help momentarily, but they're not a forever thing. Weeds will come back. But I pop back just to make sure it looks stunning still a few weeks later. Let's go and have a look. Well, there you go. This is the drive I did a couple of weeks ago. It's not too bad. Pretty good. Customer's car's out now. There's a bit of oil from the car there. I suppose he knows about it, so I could probably recommend some sort of solution to take that away. Pretty good. I've had a little sweep around, so as you can see, there was a lot of moss down here that's come off the roof. So as you can see what's going on, there was a few weeds down here, but I pulled them out. I'm going to explain to you in a minute how I removed the weeds. There's loads of different methods, but I just use the same couple of methods. They seem to work for me. Oh, there's a little weed there. Tiny weed there, I'll get that in a minute. So all down here when I first came was a growing bed for weeds. It was horrendous, but it's very sandy, so it's a case of getting your finger in and pulling the weeds out by the root. If you can pull them out by the root, then you're removing the problem. If you cut the weeds out with a knife, you're just going to allow them to grow again. There was a bit of weeding down here, pulled them out, a couple of bits, but it's not too bad. Pretty good. Let me show you. Brushes there, cat sick, I know. So I use these three methods. Now this is a last resort. This is a knife for digging the weeds out, and the way you use this is you can either cut into weeds that way. I prefer to get this in here, pull it underneath and lift the weed out by the root. So not cutting and jabbing and scraping the weeds, but lift them out. There's also something else as well. This is a gardener told me this, taught me about this years ago. if you, I've burnt this a little bit here just to see, but it's a bit wet, so it won't burn very well. And again, using that is the last resort really, because you can do damage if you go anywhere near a gas pipe or anything like that, or plastic, it's going to do damage. But watch this. So we've all got these are normal weeds, and if you put a little bit of wet in the centre, and we don't want to put salt all over it because it'll just make a mess, but if you put the salt on the very centre, just there, just a tiny bit of salt right in the centre, not here, that will now die off to the root. So let's just do this again. And the one thing I don't want to do is put too much on, because you could end up with like a salt burn on your drive. That's all you need, just a tiny bit. I'm going to wet it a little bit more just to give it, I need to top this up, just a tiny bit of wet. Don't leave the salt dry, because it won't do anything, it'll just bake in the sun. And that's it. So apart from that, this looks great. I think it's about 6-7 weeks since I was here, and it looks stunning still. Like I say, the pressure washing is a cleaning process. This was absolutely covered in weeds when I first came here. In between each one of these bricks is a miniature growing bed. So if you imagine weeds, the potential for weeds to come up is huge, it's massive. But also the bricks were really dirty. So we cleaned the bricks with pressure washing. The advantage was we cut out all the weeds, and now 1 or 2 weeds will come back rather than a million weeds, and that way you can manage it a lot better. Or get me in for a weed removal and have a lovely looking property again.